With Canon locking the RF mount to Canon lenses only, there aren't actually that many cheap options to choose from. The only 24-70 you can get costs over £2,000, but if you adapt EF lenses, then a whole other world unlocks. Up steps the Tamron 24-70 f2.8, a brilliant alternative to Canon's RF lens if you're on a budget, because you can buy this lens used for under £1,000. But does that mean it's any good and worth your money? Well, after 1 year of use, I've used this lens for wedding photography, lots of different video projects, and also a bunch of my YouTube videos. It's been my most used lens since I've brought it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't come with some faults, because there's definitely some drawbacks to this lens and it might not be for everyone. In this video I'll be showing some real world footage and photos that I've captured on this lens from the past year and give you my honest thoughts whether I think this lens is worth it to Canon shooters or not. So let's jump into some of the reasons why I absolutely love this lens. First off, the main reason why I did buy this lens over the EF 24-70, because they are around the same price when you buy them used, is because this has up to 5 stops of image stabilization, whereas the Canon EF lens does not have any. This was massive for me because I love handheld shooting and the stabilization in this lens is amazing. It's really smooth, and when I pair it with my R6 Mark II, I can get up to 8 stops of stabilization, which is absolutely amazing for handheld shooting. Having an image stabilization on a 2.8 lens is an absolute must-have for me because it just makes it so versatile, and with video being my priority, I can literally never go back now. Especially if you do pair this with like an R5C, C70 or C80, because those cameras don't have any in-body stabilization, so it'll be very hard to get usable handheld footage without image stabilization in your lens, which is why I think this is just so crucial to have, especially in 2025. Another reason why I bought this lens is just because of the sharpness of the lens. For a third-party used EF lens, this is really sharp. I'm more than happy with the quality of the photos that I get at weddings. They look amazing, and also the footage I capture when I do shoot video. It's really sharp wide open, but it does get noticeably crisper when stopping down to like f4 or f5 when shooting outside, and I tend to do this a lot, but having 2.8 to go down to when in low light conditions just really helps, and it's still nice and sharp for both photo and video. The focus on this lens is also pretty fast, and having a newer camera like the R6 Mark II, R8 or R5 II obviously helps, but I've not had many problems with it over the last year. It's great at picking up faces and eyes, and it does a great job of sticking on them and not really hunting that much. However though, even though the focus of this lens is really fast, this is where the biggest downfall of this lens comes into play. For starters, now this just could be because I did buy mine used, but it's incredibly loud and it has a very annoying squeak. It sounds like it needs a good amount of WD-40 just to shut this lens up, because not only is it distracting, but sometimes the mic actually picks it up, so it makes it even harder to get audio with this lens. Now I can live with that, you kind of get used to it over time, but something that I can't get used to is the focus breathing. This has some of the worst focus breathing I have ever seen on a lens. It's that bad that I've actually stopped using it for my YouTube videos because it was just way too distracting for me, so it would definitely be distracting for some of you guys. When in eye and face tracking, any movements makes the lens focus breathe so much, and it makes it next to impossible to use for static interviews unless you do switch the lens into manual focus. I don't find it as bad when shooting handheld, so any sort of like handheld interview, I think it is fine because I have used that before, but if it is a static interview, I would just change lenses or switch to manual because it is just too distracting. Now you might be thinking that the Canon RF 24-70 has some focus breathing, because it does. So what is the difference? Well, if you actually have a newer camera like the R6 Mark II or R5 Mark II, there's actually a setting called focus breathing corrections, which fixes it in camera, so you don't actually have to do anything in the editing because you don't see it. But with this being a third-party EF lens, it's not supported, which is an absolute bummer because that feature would fix the biggest problem of this lens for me, and it would make it so much better. Another thing that I do love about this lens is the build quality. It's fully metal and it's also weather sealed, so you can take it out in the rain. Compare that to the RF lens, and the RF lens is actually made out of plastic. It is a very premium plastic, but I would still rather have my lenses made out of metal just in case anything bad happens. With it being made out of metal though, it does mean that it can get pretty weighty, but when you do pair it with an EF to RF adapter, it doesn't actually make that much of a difference, but it definitely makes it longer, which can be a little bit of annoying to some people, especially because it does externally zoom as well, so it can get very long at the end of your camera. Now another worry that I've actually had with this lens a few times, and that is that I've been getting some error messages mid-shoot, and this has actually caused me to miss one shot at a wedding, which luckily wasn't that important. I nearly missed the reveal at a surprise birthday party. It could have been the EF to RF adapter, but I did give both the lens and the adapter a clean, and I've not had a problem since. The 24-70 can actually sometimes be referred to as the lazy lens, but it is because it's just so versatile. 24 24mm is one of my favourite focal lengths. I love the wide angleness of it, and to be able to zoom up to 70mm and get a nice compressed look, all at 2.8 with image stabilisation, not only makes this lens great for professional photographers and videographers, but it's just also a great travel lens. Having this as my travel only lens is perfect for me because of the focal range and the features of this lens. This lens always comes along with me on my travels, and it fits perfectly into my Peter McKinnon sling bag along with my 7200 f2.8. The only drawback for using this lens for travel though is the size and weight. Maybe something like a Canon R7 or an R10 with the new Sigma 18-50 f2.8 will be better suited for you because it is considerably lighter and smaller, but you do lose out on the image stabilisation and the full frame look. So what are my final thoughts after 1 year of use? Is it worth saving half of your money compared to the RF lens, and do I recommend it? Even with the flaws of this lens, I still think it's worth picking up. If you get this used like I did, you can save over £1,000 and you can just put that money towards another lens. I will leave the link in the description below for you to go purchase because I really do think this is great value. If you have any other questions about this lens, please be sure to leave them in the comments below and I'll try and help you out. Thank you very much for watching, and if you did like this video, you might actually like this video up here where I actually talk about the legendary Sigma lens, which is an unbelievable, amazing choice for your R7 and your R10. So if you are interested in that lens, make sure you go watch that video next.